Well, good morning again, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's agent development training. Couple of quick announcements before we jump into today's guest speaker. First of all, I did send out this morning a recording of all of the previous summer speaker series sessions that we've done. So you guys have those available to listen to and just go back to. I think, especially if you're a new agent, it's really important to wrap your head around the different ways that agents are finding success in the business. We interviewed a lot of our top agents, and even agents who are newer in the business. Emily Haskins, for example, we interviewed her, and she's not a tier 4 agent yet. But I'd encourage you guys as you're working out, mowing the lawn, different times you're driving. Those are great links to go back to. The only thing you have to do is click on the link, and then it asks you for your first and last name and your email address, and then you can log in and actually watch the recording. I did snip them a little bit so that if there was any chatter at the beginning about something like announcements like I'm doing right now, we cut that out. So it's just the content for you guys to listen to. So I hope you find value in that. And those will be available to you long term here. Second of all, I wanted to push you and encourage you all to continue to work on your certifications. And that means different things for different people. If you're in the Medicare space this year, you should be done with AHIP, which I've actually finished my AHIP now, and I'm oftentimes one of the last ones to get it done. And then you have to complete your carrier certifications with the different carriers. One thing that I heard this morning that's just a tidbit of information, Humana has been holding back on the release of their first looks, and they said until September at some point. Fred Sumner, one of our TVPs, though, was able to kind of hack the system a little bit. Excuse me. He said if you go in and actually order supplies, you can look at the summary of benefits for the different geographies. And so while they haven't quite released everything yet, it is available if you go in and look where you order your supplies after you've gotten through the certification. The other thing that I need all of you to do is I need you to update. We have a Google Drive, a spreadsheet in the Google Drive that's been shared with you, which is 2024 certifications. I think that's what it's called. Every one of you has a line in there with your name and then check boxes that you can check off as you complete the different certifications. AHIP is on there. If you're not doing Medicare this year, then the big certification that you need to get done is your FFM certification, Federally Facilitated Marketplace. There's a column on that certification spreadsheet for you to check that you've completed that. We're going to start looking at that really hard starting next week when we get back, back in the office and really pushing agents who don't have things done, because one of the issues you can potentially run into, and I ran into this a few years ago, I waited till kind of the final hour to do my FFM certification, and there was an identity verification error of some sort, and it took me about 2 weeks to figure it out and get it fixed with the government. I was getting nervous because we were coming up on the beginning of November 1st, and I was not fully certified yet. So I don't want you guys to wait on that. I would encourage you, put that on your priority list. This week, in the next 7 days here to get those certifications done. Our goal was to have them all done by September 1st and then update them on that spreadsheet if you would, please. So just want to continue to push on that. Are there any questions or anything else that we need to address before we jump into today's guest speaker?
I have a really quick question.
Yeah.
So you know how with Medicare you have like the different certifications with each carrier. Is that the same thing with under 65?
It is not.
Okay. Great,
Nope.
just want to make sure.
Yep, the carriers don't require any certification other than being appointed with them. You got to make sure you're appointed with the different carriers that you're going to be representing. We may have some new updates on things. I'm trying to get some. So UHC is coming into Indiana this year in the ACA market. We just don't know where they're going to be. Historically, United Healthcare, when they've come into a market in the ACA, it's been a very population dense area. So I think they might just come into Indianapolis. Do you know that for sure, Sandra?
Not yet, no, but that's what I'm kind of hearing. They'll start probably with Marion and the collar counties around there and then go probably maybe to Fort Wayne or who knows, we'll see, over in Lake County. But
Right.
Good morning. Any word on Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan? I know that one's been delayed.
Well, it's not going to happen until September.
Okay.
So I think it's September 9th or 12th or something that they have their scheduled to roll out. A lot of the carriers are in limbo right now when it comes to Medicare at some level. They've gotten some government subsidies to help offset things, but there's also court cases going on and challenges to those subsidies that they received. So there's a lot of things in limbo. So I think the carriers are, so some of them are trying to hold their cards close to their vest until they absolutely have to disclose what's actually going on. So I'd also mention we have a new short-term carrier, both in Indiana and Michigan, called Pivot Health. You guys probably need to get appointed with Pivot Health so that you have another option. Devoted Health is coming into the Medicare space in Indiana. So getting appointed with Devoted, we've initiated that process with myself and my team here. We are also, if you are a sub-agent, we are working through some things when it comes to specifically Devoted Health and getting sub-agents appointed. So Rachel and I are working on that. So there's a lot of things spinning, a lot of things in limbo. We may have some new carriers and some new entrants in the ACA space. I think over the next couple of weeks, we'll know more about that. And so if we need you to get appointed with any additional carriers, we'll certainly be communicating that. I would encourage you guys, please watch your health markets communications that are coming out, at least scan through them and make sure there's not something important that you need in there. I try to go over those all in my sales team meetings with our Indiana agents. But all of you just need to make sure that you're on top of those health markets communications and reading those. Don't just archive them and skip over them. There's a lot of info there. So,
hey Silas, quick question.
Yep.
Well, it's not a question, it's more of a statement, but I got a thing from WellCare that did confirm they are not going to pay commissions on PDPs next year. So
yeah,
unless you're doing their MAPD, you don't even need to do their certification.
So a couple of thoughts that I have on that. And I just came off a TVP call where I brought this up and we addressed it. I don't know if that's 100% finalized. They've sent out communications to agents saying they're not doing it, but the broker community is exploding right now. I mean, and candidly, when we look at health markets business, 53% of our PDP revenue comes from WellCare. So I don't know if this is going to change, but I will tell you there is tremendous pressure on WellCare to look at this. There's also potentially, impact. I mean, one of the things with WellCare is they have a lot of $0 plans in markets across the country. And one of the things that I'm just kind of thinking through, and I asked Dan Garrison about this morning on the call, and they're going to put some, some communications together. He said a lot of it's still in process too. But one of the things we've got to consider is that there may be a point in time that WellCare plan is the best suited plan for someone. And we do need, even if it's a non-commissionable plan, we need to be appointed and certified to help a consumer enroll in that, even if we're not taking a commission on it. And a lot of people say, well, why do you need to be appointed and certified if it's a non-commissionable product? Well, if you're recommending it for someone, your E&O coverage won't cover you in helping that consumer with that product or guiding them to that product if you're not appointed and certified to sell that particular product. So there are some things here that are in a little bit of limbo from a legal perspective, I would say as well. So I will absolutely keep everybody updated on that. I saw the notice, and there's obviously a tremendous outrage from the broker community in general, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on WellCare to maybe reevaluate that decision. So, but thanks for bringing that up, Cav. Anything else we need to address? Perfect. One last time, I'm just going to mention, please put your name in the chat box if you haven't already, so Sandra can account for you being here today. So I'm excited to continue our summer speaker series with Ray Plagens today. Many of you know Ray. Some of you may not have had an opportunity to meet Ray if you're a new agent in the Michigan market. Ray is one of the most prolific Medicare writers that's ever been a part of our organization. He is the top Medicare agent to ever be a part of our organization. And he's historically been one of the top agents in the nation and #1 multiple years. Ray figured out many years ago how lucrative Medicare can be, and he jumped on that particular product line and really led from the front for our entire organization. Ray and I, our first year in Medicare was together, and it was selling a product that actually Health Markets manufactured, and we crushed it that first year collectively. Ray led the charge on that. And then Health Markets pulled out of that particular space, and we had to pivot and adjust. And we began to, get into Medicare in other ways. And then Health Markets really jumped on the bandwagon from there, and we started, adding all the carriers that we have today. And today, this has become an enormous part of our income. One of the things I asked Ray to talk about today, though, a little bit is, certainly there's a lot of accolades that we can discuss and tremendous successes that he's achieved. He's one of the top earners to ever be a part of our organization when it comes to commissions. But I also think it's important to go back and think about what did it take to get there? And what were those first few months to year, really like for Ray? And I'll tell you from perspective. I mean, I had an interesting perspective because I worked alongside Ray. It was a difficult grind in the beginning for Ray. It didn't come easy. It wasn't like his first appointment, he went out and he crushed it and made a big sale. He had multiple sales that he secured early in his career that didn't go through for one reason or another. That was back in a time where we literally had to collect paper applications and signed checks in many situations. And, he would close a deal and bring it in. And the next day the client would back out and say they didn't want to move forward. He had multiple starts and stops. And candidly, I can say this today because of the tremendous success that he's achieved. But I would say back then, I had questions early in Ray's career whether this was the right career path for him. But he powered through that in a way that I haven't seen many other agents power through some of the obstacles that he overcame early in his career. And I think it's important to go back and remember like how difficult it is to get things off the ground. So Ray has actually prepared a bit of a presentation today. I'm going to kind of drive this. Ray, as I'm pulling this up, I don't know if you intro you'd like to make to kind of what we're going to be presenting today, but you're welcome to step in and the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to share. I'm my first 13 weeks is uh, a distant memory at this point in time, and I would like you all to really focus on the grind that I'm going to be talking about as opposed to my accomplishments. I'd say probably my biggest accomplishment was getting through this beginning phase of my career. Um, where did I come from? I literally came from being a CEO of a manufacturing company, a retired colonel in the Army. Um, really coming from a place in my career where when I'd walk in a room, people would stand up, kind of thing, to selling insurance to the general public and having them treat you like crap. It was very humbling, and I think humility is something we all should have in this ability to go out and help other people every day. That is literally my personal mantra. It's on my letterhead, and I wake up every day with the intent to go help other people every day. It's in my soul. I see it as part of my faith, and God's allowed this to be a blessing for me and my family. I love this particular photo. Norman Rockwell is the painter of this, and that kid is basically scared shitless up there, and that is Medicare. Um, and quite honestly, that is beginning anything in this business. For many of you that are on this call, you're all not all of you, but some of you are brand new, and have the faith, be persistent, persevere, work like you've never worked before, work like your life depends on it, and um, the blessings and the pot of gold at the other end of that rainbow will be there for you. I'm a personal testament to that. Next slide, please. Where did we start? Well, we started with this thing known as MEGA back in the day, and the National Association for the Self-Employed. And if you can imagine, right now you need to go out and sell, right? But back then we had to sell an association to then be able to sell the insurance product. You could not get MEGA life and health insurance without being a member of the National Association for the Self-Employed. So by that name, you can infer that we were really focused on self-employed people. It was a niche of the market that we would go after because our product was designed to particularly avoid any workers' comp complications inside that health insurance policy. My first sale, what a joke. After 7 attempts, and I'm going to go through that in a comical manner here in a little bit. Um, I I tried over and over and over again to get my first sale because that's actually what turns the light bulb on, so to speak, to your timing, to hit quick start back then. And it took me 7 different sales to finally get my first deal. We underwrote our products back then. And when I say we, we're talking we, the agent in the field with this big book that had to have been, oh, at least 3, if not 4 inches thick. Everything in there from um, back pain to all kinds of, psychological disorders and things like that. And you would have anything from like a 10% all the way up to a 200% rate up. And so if something was $400 and you had a 200% rate up, the price was 800. And then you had the fun of figuring all this out literally while you were there and telling the client, oh, instead of 400, you're going to pay 800 kind of thing. It was a blast, for lack of a better way to describe it. We did a lot of our own marketing back then. A lot of the same things that I'm sure Silas is still teaching you today, things like walk and talks, drive-bys. For those that don't know what a drive-by is, if you're at the stoplight and you see a self-employed truck next to you, call the number. I always ask, hey, how's that advertising working out for you on your vehicle? Um, and then inevitably they'll ask you what you do, and oh, I'm self-employed as well. And then you just leave it as an open end. And of course they ask you, what do you do? And sometimes that works in building a client. Always try to get their information and put them in your CRM, and it could be a client down the road as well. 200 to 300 phone calls a week, what we call touches in today's world with all the new technology, whether it be an email or um, leading someone to your Facebook page or whatever the case may be. Yeah, Cavajola says, I forgot how horrible it was back in the day. Thanks for sharing, Ray. Yeah, we were all in the same boat together. I can't see the bottom of my slide. There we go. 300 to 500 touches. So not all touches are a phone call, but think about what you do today, whether it be 100 phone calls. I know Silas recommends at least 200. I do as well. And some of that is calling people more than once, but I really don't like calling anybody more than 3 times, with the last call being basically something to the tune, hey, out of respect for your time and mine, I'm not going to keep calling you, but if you like my help, the only way I can help you is to hear from you. If this is important to you, please call me. And that doesn't work all the time, but it does seem to work enough to get business up and running. You think leads suck now? Oh my God. Um, you can't even imagine how bad they sucked back then. So you hear people say jokingly, all leads suck. Well, they sort of do. But today they are of such higher quality than they were. Back then we paid 16 to 25, sometimes $30 for a lead, and it went out to 6 to 10 other agents in the country. And now Health Markets has limited that down to a much higher quality degree. Is there anything below that on that slide?
There's not.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Things that I learned, underwriting mattered, and the more fact finding you did before you got to the actual appointment, the better, so that you could be prepared for these embarrassing things that ultimately happened to me. Listen to your mentors. I would hope, certainly I'm humbled to think that, some of you look to me. I know in my own team, that I've got Mackenzie and Sean and Casey and then certainly others that I've touched in my career in my lifetime. Those are I'm very honored and humbled to have had that capability. Silas and Cav were absolutely instrumental. Tom Sandlin to some degree, but he didn't get out in the field actually, so he was more teaching you what to do from hearing it from others, which there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but Silas and Cav still to this day are doing everything they can to help you and teach you. There's probably not a better teacher in health markets than Steve Cavajola. Um, Listen to them. They know what they're talking about, and they have everything in their best interest to allow you to learn from that. What a stupid phrase. Work works. It does. Hard work works even better, and diligent and not giving up and persistent work will definitely do the trick. Um, do not do your personal stuff during money making hours. That is maybe one of the most valuable things that I can share with you. So don't mow the lawn, don't do laundry, don't don't do anything other than market, run appointments, all the things that you do in your business to include, I would say, even studying and doing your certifications. Don't do those during money making hours. Those are great things to do in the evening or while you're watching a football game on the weekend. We are local agents. Emphasize the locality of what you do because you can literally, even if you're in a completely different state or a town, you can come and sit with them in their living room. Many other agents that are contacting them cannot offer that same thing to them. Your services are free. We're not allowed to use that word. Your services come to them at no cost. Sandler selling concepts. You cannot teach a kid to ride a bicycle at a seminar. I'm sure you've heard Silas talk about this book. I think I've read it 7 times. I know Sean has been through the training. It is very valuable in just the psychology of the sales process and being in control. And the tendency is always that people want to take the ball and leave the playground. Well, don't let go of the ball, and they can't do that. Shut up and listen. Let the client talk. The best way to do this, ask open-ended questions that just cannot simply be answered with a yes or a no. Get them talking and let that happen. Nod your head, encourage them, and last but not least on this slide, don't be a pushover. Act busy even when you're not. I've always turned down the first opportunity of the appointment that they ask for. And I in the beginning I would let them know, no, I've got another appointment at that time. What else do you have that I can get with you? Because the more you look busy, the more they're going to chase you. Next slide. Use a pitch book. That's what we used to call it. Cavajola always had the best one, but he changed it like every 24 hours, so I couldn't keep up with his current version. We now have the P4L. Use it and abuse it. That thing is, it has a lot of science behind it. Alex Wertentile's mom, who used to be a TVP, she was instrumental in developing the original versions of our P4L, and a lot of the things we do in this territory were a basis for what's in there. It takes you through the pain funnel. If you listen to the Cavajola University, that pain funnel is critical in getting people into pain, and then you perform the miracle, particularly with regards to cancer plans, nursing home coverage, home health care. We've got so many wonderful products, and if you put your clients into the pain of what that can mean and then tell them you've got solutions, and just simply asking if they'd like to hear about them, they're never going to say no. Once you tell them how important it is. Pain is the key to cross-selling. Cross-selling is, quite honestly, what I would say is the key to your income. We all, not we all, but most of us can go out and sell a simple Medicare Advantage plan that costs $0. I mean, good Lord, if you can't sell something that costs $0, we probably definitely can come to the conclusion that you're in the wrong business. When I originally recruited my nephew Sean to the business, that's the question I asked him. Do you think you can sell something that costs $0? Notice how I said it costs $0. I said it's not free. We can't say it's free. That's against CMS regulations. Affordable Care Act, the new version, it's not new anymore. It's been around since 2014. It's been around 10 years now. I just sort of shake my head in disbelief at that. And it's gotten stronger, better, and I think more affordable, quite honestly. And that's all based on someone's income. And it's designed technically to never exceed 10% of your income. And that, in my personal opinion, would still not be affordable. But health insurance is important, and it's quite honestly very expensive. But cross-sell into that opportunity, particularly when you get that middle class to upper middle class family who really does care about covering their kids for accidents if they jump off the garage, or somebody who falls off a ladder. I use a lot of different stories when I talk about these things and how these policies can really help. You cannot, I should have emphasized and capitalized the word cannot, underline it, bold it, whatever. You cannot get the ball rolling in this business without lots and lots of phone calls and walk and talks. Walk and talks are free other than your time. Get out there, introduce yourself, leave a card, take their card, and then the following week, call those cards back. And then ultimately, I've done something that I think is a little unique. I'll send them a close the file letter and staple their business card back on the letter. It's just it's an interrupter, so to speak. They open the mail and they see their business card. It's going to cause them to look at it. Can't tell you how many times I've gotten phone calls back from people that I couldn't reach before because I sent them a letter closing their file. Always take every answer, no matter what it is. Oh, I got somebody else helping me. Or, oh, just send me information, or whatever that is. I've got literally a funny answer usually to try to get back to every one of those types of statements. Oh, send me information. Well, I am the information, and I certainly can't fit in your mailbox, especially at the size I am in today's world. What works better for you, mornings or afternoons? We did some sales training back in the day, and that question, I learned to ask it almost immediately, and it works. Get the appointment. What's the purpose of a phone call? Get the appointment. It's not to tell them how great you are. Get the appointment. Once you have the appointment, then you close the appointment and tell them all the things you're going to do when you get there. And then when you get there, fulfill your promise and actually do those. I think there is something at the bottom of this slide, but I can't see it.
It just says learn from every single appointment, right?
Well, what a great piece of wisdom that is, because every single appointment, even today, particularly if it didn't go well, learn from it. Why didn't I get that person's confidence to believe in me? Because there's only a few reasons they don't buy from you. Either they didn't trust you, they didn't believe you, which is certainly trust as well, or they didn't like you, or they didn't have money, or they just simply didn't need what you were telling them about. Get to the bottom of that. and learn from it. Learn from the ones you do sell too. Wow. The best example I have of that, I think I'll tell the story is the upfront close. Back we were taught, if I show you um, insurance policy that meets your needs and fits your budget, can I get your commitment that we're going to do business today? That was the upfront contract. And the guy was like, "Oh, no, 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 we're not going to do that. I'm just going to get information." So I just slammed my book closed. I said, "Well, call me when you're ready." And he goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, where are you going?" And I said, "Well, once you're ready to really seriously take a look at this, I'll come back and sit with you." And then he's like, "Oh, calm down. We'll get to the bottom." And sure enough, it was one of my first 7 sales, but then he, like, I don't know, had the IRS or something call him and took all his money, and then they had to pull the policy away. Next slide. Whoops, we skipped one.
Let me go back one. That's right. Can you see that now?
Yep. Write a plan, follow your plan, adjust every month or every week. If you don't have a plan or a goal, I used to put my goals literally right up on the wall in front of me, particularly for quick start and those kinds of things. I sort of just have them inherently in my head now. We still have a business plan every single year. We review it at our team meetings, where we're at against plan, and then of course adjustments that need to be made along the way. Get those touches in today's world. Touches are electronic or physically calling. I think there's nothing more effective than still trying to reach somebody and calling. Younger folks really like to text. I can't stand text, but I understand how it can be convenient and usable. Buy leads or go out and get them. That's called personally developed leads. Walk and talks is a perfect example of that. The 3-foot rule is another perfect example. Anybody that's within 3 feet of you, tell them what you do. Get good at it. And you don't have to be obnoxious about it. Just, be proud of what you do. It's very noble. Money works too, particularly when it comes to advertising. A lot of new agents don't have the money though, so spend the time and the effort. And wear your colors. I'm almost always wearing a health market shirt, and leave business cards at businesses, on bulletin boards, at restaurants when you leave a tip. Get the magnets too and stick those around. It it's just little drip marketing, but in the end it can really help. Send that close the file letter. I know a lot of you may think that that's a complete waste of time. I've proven to myself that it's not. Medicare is confusing. That's why we're here. Get into Medicare, maybe not your first year. I know Silas will definitely advise you not to do it your first year, but certainly by the time you get your second AEP, be up ready to rock and roll. It is the holy grail of the annuity of that income stream, and learn how to cross sell, particularly into this market. When I first started doing Medicare, we didn't have cross selling really in the Medicare space, nor was it really actually compliant. Um, Anything non-health related still is not compliant, but getting another appointment and continuing to do policy reviews, that's very, very powerful. And I've grown to love policy reviews. We've got some pretty funny clients out there. And these slides, although they are funny, they're actually pretty damn real. It's confusing. Next slide. Tough start. My first appointment. Oh my God. Um, LaPorte, Indiana. I went out, met with this guy. I swear to God, when I got there, he had one arm and he was cleaning a gun with his other arm right on his table, right on his desk there. He had a mail order bride. She wasn't out there when I got there, and he basically looked at me and he said, "You need to get her insurance or I'll put a cap in your ass." And he was cleaning a gun. I said, "Well, I'll do what I can, and I certainly want to leave here in one piece. So you have my word that I'll do whatever I can." Well, I was so new that I went into the application. I forgot that you have to be a citizen or have a green card to get a policy back with Mega. And um, that's a whole different story. I'm like, well, I don't remember her name. I think it was like Sun or something like that. She was from Korea. And he says, well, she's sleeping. And I said, well, can you please wake her up and have her come out here? I swear to God, she came out and she was in a see-through negligee and she sat right next to me, like touching me on my leg. And I was so uncomfortable, but fought through it, got to do the application. And I got to that damn question about being a citizen. And little did I know that I probably should have immediately jumped to, well, we can get help with prescriptions through the NASE and all that kind of stuff. I just started stumbling around and left there before I got shot. It was horrible. Next one, the decisive bride. The husband left the appointment to go play pool with his buddies. Never, ever do this. Always meet with both spouses because usually they're both decision makers. And the other thing I did in this one is I oversold it like crazy. I mean, this woman wanted to buy anything and everything, and it was in Hamlet. I've never been back to Hamlet, Indiana. I don't ever want to go to Hamlet, Indiana. For any of you that have been there, I think there might be like 32 people that live in that town, and it's in the middle of Stark County, and Stark County is named Stark for a reason. But they had their own self-employment business and they seemed pretty successful. But when I got it, they took me into their garage and we went up these stairs into the attic of the garage, which is where their business office was. And oh, it had to have been 100 degrees. And I was sweating like crazy. She was sweating. He was sweating. He was like, I got to get out of here and go drink some beer and shoot pool with the boys. Honey, do whatever you need to do. And I mean, she bought a policy and every single cross sell opportunity known to mankind, she bought it. And the next day he called me all pissed off. I mean, it was like $900 back then, which was, maybe like $2,000 now. And he just called me every name in the book and said, pull the deal. And then, of course, I tried to um, salvage it, and that didn't work either. And it had all been turned into Melody because it was a Thursday, and we had to hand carry our business into Melody, and she would scrub it and make sure it was all perfect. And she pulled it. The upfront contract sale, I made a little bit of a reference to that. 400% rate up or whatever the hell it was for a bipolar spouse, and he was 100 pounds overweight, and that all got withdrawn. Good Samaritan. This appointment, I mean, I'd probably still do it. She was a diabetic, and back then you could not get a policy from anybody other than the state high risk pool. And I was going to sit down with her and tell her that and to help her with the prescription benefits that were in the NASC. Well, dumb me, assuming she didn't already know this, because she'd probably talked to like 20 different insurance guys and gals before me, getting declined every single time. Well, while I'm there, not only got attacked by her dog one time, and that thing came around, and I mean, tore my pant leg up pretty bad. Well, but the next time it came around, I heard it coming, and she was yelling at the grandkids to make sure that it stayed in the bedroom. Well, it got back out, and here it comes again. And so I get up and I'm ready, and I kicked that thing like a football, and it literally went like 2/3 of the way up the wall. And I looked to her and I said, "Well, I guess this appointment's over." And she just started screaming and yelling at me, and I'm going to sue you. And I'm like, "Ma'am, I came here to try to help you. Your dog attacked me in your home. I, you're not going to sue me." Um, and I got out of there. But again, another horrible experience. Oh God, I did go back to Hamlet. The next story, I don't know. I must have been buying leads in Stark County because nobody else wanted to back then. But that's a good way to get leads back in the day when you go to territories that nobody else goes to. So I get there, it's in a trailer park. I'll never forget this one. Um, this is quite hilarious. This guy is huge and he is fat and he is in his underwear and he is hanging out the side of his trailer. It looked like vomiting, but he was actually spitting tobacco out. And he turns to look at me as I'm getting out of my car, and I got my briefcase over my shoulder and my computer. And he looks, and I don't know if he said, I think he said, "Are you the insurance fucker?" But he might have said asshole. But anyway, one way or the other, I look over both my shoulders, like as if there might be someone behind me, and I go, "Oh, I guess I am." And he goes, "Come on in." And I get there and I'm thinking, oh God, I hope he puts some clothes on before he gets to the door. Well, he didn't. He answers the door in his underwear, smoking a cigarette. "Come on in." I go in there, and we had to clear off literally like 2 feet of newspapers on this chair for me to sit on, and I had to clear a space on the coffee table. And we get to going into the underwriting, and it's happened to be a Medicare appointment, and he starts talking to me about how he's a non-smoker, but he's literally got one and he's lighting another one with the other one. And now he has a cigarette in both hands and he's looking at me saying he's a non-smoker. I'm like, "Sir, they're going to know. And I'm not going to be party to saying that you're not a smoker." And he goes, "Well, if you're not going to say not a smoker," he goes, "get the hell out of my house." I'm like, I start packing stuff up and I'm getting ready to go. And I get to the door and my briefcase swung around and hit this shelf that's by the door there. And all these figurines start falling off the shelf, ceramic figurines. And I'm trying to catch them and they're hitting the ground and breaking. And I'm just like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And then I go to open the screen door to get out and it fell out. The door literally fell out. And I'm like, "Oh my God." So I just walked over the door and down the ramp for the wheelchair. I never did figure out why that was there. And I got the heck out of there. That was quite an experience. Don't go to Hamlet. What's the one that's below that? Two enormous rate ups. Oh my God, with a personal friend. I probably shouldn't say her name. I won't. It would be a HIPAA violation anyway. But she's a personal friend and she wanted to get insurance. Well, you ask about surgeries and stuff. Well, she didn't tell me about her breast implants. And that was actually quite a rate up. Not only that, but she was seeing a doctor for a bad back. So that was even a bigger rate up. That was like a 75% rate up. And the surgery she had was a 25% rate up. So I didn't know about either one of these. And so I had to go back and tell her this with the new rate. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to know if they're real? I mean, the things we had to do back then were just simply unbelievable. Next slide. The marathon runner, osteoarthritis on a weight-bearing joint, 50% rate up. And this guy's like Mr. Health. And I thought he was going to punch me. You know, and I'm like, well, that's a 50% rate up. And he's like, what are you talking about? Another one, sold the deal. And I think this one went into the company and everything. And then we had to pull it back because, quote unquote, the IRS seized his bank account. I, I mean, at a certain point, Silas and Tom and Melody had to have been just like, what is wrong with this guy? Because everything I did was like falling apart. And back then, we also had to deal with those savvy shoppers that would Google Mega and NASE and, you know, all these horrible things that were being said about us. They weren't technically true. It was more, they were just bad actors, even, you know, in your own company, and those gave people a bad reputation. I sold a nice mega policy to a guy who forgot that he actually already had one. He was a truck driver and he's paying this thing. It's like over $400 out of his account every single month. He's like, oh, that was in my gas checking account for my gas, and I never caught it. I'm like, again, you know, things you can't even believe. Finally, in the end, I still hit my 65,000 QPCs, which still can't define what the hell those are. We have FYCRs now. They were quality production credits back then, and it had everything to do with your taken rate. Well, with as many policies I had canceled, you can imagine what my taken rate was. And you only got that percentage applied to what is now your FYCR. So your QPC was like a small percentage of what you actually sold. But I got to go to North Richland Hills headquarters, Health Markets. It was wonderful. They treated me like royalty, and quite honestly, I have never looked back. This has really been a humbling experience for me here today to really start thinking about all the things that did happen to me. Be a student of your profession. The market is ever changing. Wear your colors. Work works. Maximize those currencies. We've got a bunch of them between your lead connect monies, and we've just got so many wonderful things. You're in the right spot. Man, have the faith. That's all I can tell you. Got a couple other ones. Showed up at a client or an appointment. Hi, is Bill here? No, Bill died. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, he died this morning. Oh my God. So I'm literally showing up at the guy's door and he's dead. Another one. Lady has a heart attack right while I'm there. Medicare appointment. I help, you know, get her laid on the ground and make sure that she can breathe. And I called the ambulance, literally saved her life. And she bought her Medicare from someone else because she was embarrassed to call me back. What about the time I sat in the chair that was covered with maple syrup, and when I stood up, it ripped the entire back of my pants out? That was fun. And she's like, oh, I just cleaned that chair. What about the time I'm in Osceola meeting with grandma at the kitchen table, and I can hear her husband and her son in the living room talking about stealing my car. They're looking out the front of the house, talking about stealing my car. You gotta be shitting me. I sold the policy and got the hell out of there.
Honestly, as you start to relive this, so I'll tell all of you, many years ago, Ray actually wrote just a dissertation about what those first 13 weeks looked like for him. And I remember reading this thing and I could not stop laughing. The stories after stories. I remember you said you were actually typing it all out. I think you're laying in bed next to Julie and you couldn't stop laughing yourself. Some of the obstacles to overcome, you know, to get where you're at today. So it was a different world back then. Cav remembers that. I mean, I'll tell you, the first 10 to 12 years of my career, we traveled to every single client. We met with them where they were. And sometimes that was in a trailer park. Sometimes that was in I mean, the amount of places that I went that probably shouldn't have gone or wouldn't want my daughter or my wife to go to try to secure a deal when it was all said and done. It is a different world today, but I think looking back on that is healthy perspective, especially for new agents in the business. It is a different world that we operate in today. And while it's a lot more complex than what it may have been previously, I still think a lot of the same things hold true today. Going back to work works. And I would just encourage all of you, Ray, and I've said this about Ray many times, and he is probably the hardest working individual that I have ever worked next to. Candidly, in the beginning, he was not, I mean, he didn't come from a sales background. You weren't the most smooth, polished salesperson I'd ever seen, but you outworked everybody else around you. And you've continued to do that, throughout the course of your entire career. And I think that's what's allowed you to become one of the top earners, in the organization and probably in the industry when you really look at it. So it's been fun to plug through all this with you and just listen to your story, Ray. I appreciate you taking the time to share it with us. I think it's interesting because I talked to a lot of people who are looking at coming into this business, and everybody seems to say the similar thing in that, well, I've got a unique story. And I'm like, everybody's got a unique story, whether it's coming into the business or once you get into the business, you're all going to have a different path to find success. But the common themes are, you've got a platform to run on here. You've got support and infrastructure around you. You've got people and an organization that are willing to invest into you. And we can't do the work for you. You've got to be the one that does the work and logs the hours and does the time. There's no substitute for hard work. So, Cab, do you have any thoughts or comments? I know you were witness to much of this throughout the course of your career, working alongside Ray and with Ray over the years. Any thoughts or comments on what Ray shared today?
Yeah, first of all, Ray, I want to thank you for the kind words. I mean, to watch where you came from to being basically health markets royalty now, it was pretty cool to see, and love your humility and again, you're just preaching the same thing that we've been preaching the whole time. And I think it's funny, going back and thinking about how it was before it is now. That's why I think one of the things that I think has hurt new reps is internet leads. Because there was a day we didn't have anything like that. And so we had to go out and market our own business. So it was just second nature, where now I think it's hard for new people because I can just sit and wait for my phone to ring, or I can sit and wait for an email to call somebody, and people don't learn how to really go out and find their own. So again, I always call internet leads a blessing and a curse, but it's nice, to hear Ray talk about, yeah, the leads sucked back then. We just had to grind and do it, but it's worth it. So thanks for the kind words, Ray, and keep retiring, because you seem to write more business the more you talk about retiring. So
Ray, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap things up today?
No, it's just it's a revelation to see where things are today versus where they were. And God works in mysterious ways, and my God, what a huge blessing this has been.
Yeah, agreed.
Pretty amazing.
Sandra?
Hey, Ray, I just want to thank you for sharing your wonderful stories, and you are a wonderful mentor for so many of us. And boy, you brought back some memories for me, but you don't want to go to Knox, Indiana either.
No.
That's
No, you get knocked around in Knox.
Hamlet's too far from Knox. Those are like sister cities, aren't they?
No, they're pretty close.
Yeah.
And
Stark County's finest.
Somebody once warned me about some KKK things going on. So beware.
I think Knox at one point was the KKK capital of the world at one point a long time ago. So
Brandy just moved from Knox. Good move.
So, well, Ray, we appreciate your time today. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts. I know you're going to crush it this AEP, as you always do. You've got a bigger team around you than you've ever had, and I appreciate what you're pouring into the agents that are around you. For those of you who are out there, I just encourage you. You guys have to continue to grind day in and day out, week in and week out, to get this thing off the ground. It doesn't come without a lot of hard work, and all of us that are at a point where you perceive us to be successful in the business, we were in the grind. And some of us are still in the grind. I still feel like most days I am absolutely slammed with work to be done. But what a blessing, what an opportunity. I know Ray and Cav and myself have been tremendously blessed by this business and this industry in general. And I hope many of you can find the same successes that we've been able to achieve. So thanks again, Ray. I appreciate everybody being here today. We'll continue with our ADT sessions next week, and I'll get the recording for this actually updated and sent out as well. So hope everybody has a great week. Thank you for being here. Take care.